Hello, 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 and welcome to the Truth Ruth podcast. I am your host, Ruth Anna Sontag, but most of my close friends, they call me Truth Ruth. Why? Because I speak the truth, and you know what that does? It sets you free. Here on this podcast, we dive deep into topics around faith, fitness, business, and all things success. I love to bring on incredible guests who are living out their calling, breaking barriers, and making a massive impact. They're taking ground, taking territory, and making a massive impact. Together, we like to uncover wisdom, share powerful stories, and equip the next generation for success. So let's get into it. Today, I have an amazing guest for you. She is a dual licensed therapist and relationship coach with decades of experience guiding women to step into their power, into clarity, into confidence with conviction. Trina has been where so many of us have been. She's known what it's like to feel lost, stuck, and unable to say no. Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a great conversation. She knows what it's like to struggle, to claim your space in the world. And yet, through her own transformation, she now leads a life of empowerment, freedom, and deep, authentic love. Please help me welcome to the podcast, Trina Schmidt. Woo!
Thank you so much, Ruthie. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I'm really, really excited to be here today.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the podcast.
Thank
Oh
you.
my goodness. So where did we meet? We met in a mastermind coaching group. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes. And so we've been seeing each other as like digital buddies, you
Yes.
know? And now we're getting the opportunity to sit down together, have a conversation, and oh my goodness, I love it. So as I was going through your bio, dual licensed therapist, relationship coach, and you've been where so many other women have been, like you're like lost, stuck, unable to say no. Can you give us a little bit of your story? Like let us into what was that like for you?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Denmark, and I came to US in my early 20s. And talk about feeling lost, moving to a different culture, new language. Not only do you deal with the regular growing up that is kind of bumpy and unstable, but then you come into unhealthy relationships and abusive family that just shook my world.
Yeah.
I lost myself. I lost my just sense of purpose, understanding myself. I was a people pleaser. I thought everybody knew what was best for me. I always
Mm,
looked for external validation. And at the end, I was just sad and depressed and didn't know how to function. So I really had to work hard on that self awareness and self love and realizing that it was not about my situation. It was not about my relationships. Like, let's stop blaming the externals. And I really
mm,
had to take a good look at myself and, like, I have a choice on this. I
yeah.
have a choice on what do I want in life. So I
Wow.
started the hard journey on pursuing self love, pursuing self awareness, understanding what is the deeper meaning of life? I've always wondered that as a child, always had that curiosity of like, wow, life is so amazing and mysterious, and what is it all about? But the key and the freedom really lied in the fact that knowing myself, understanding myself, separate myself from what other people are.
Mm,
That was the freedom in my journey. So, as a therapist and a relationship coach, I started teaching these steps and this framework to other people because not only have I gone through it myself, but I see over and over again how we as human beings are just stuck in the stories and stuck in the
mm.
limiting beliefs and stuck in what we deem as situational restrictions to feeling good and happy and living a purposeful life.
Wow. Well, I mean, first off, I just want to commend you on taking like making that decision to take that leap into doing the work. The harder work, the deeper work, the awareness work. And I love what you said. You said I decided that I have a choice and I can stop blaming people. We could just stop it right there. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's your success tip for the day.
Yeah.
You have a choice. Stop blaming people. Well, you know what? Just for the sake of conversation, we'll keep going. But that was so good. We could just leave it there.
Mm.
That was so good. Because we all come to that point. We all come to that point where we're like, no, I'm not gonna keep blaming externals and circumstances and people, because then you just keep giving all your power away.
Yeah,
I think of
absolutely.
blaming as shooing away your power, because you're shooing away responsibility. And it
Mm,
keeps you in this place of powerlessness. It keeps you stuck longer. It perpetuates the struggle,
mm,
and it keeps you blinded to the things that you're actually available, resources that are actually available to you, that are in you and that are around you, for you to have actual success and to make meaningful progress. Would you agree?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love how you say that because the only way we step into power, I did not feel powerful growing up. I don't think I felt powerful until the last few years, 5, 10, 10 years of my life. Because I didn't know that powerful could be not power over, right? But power with. That I can
Mm,
stand in my own true power and be who I am and honor other people for who they are. It's not about more or less. It's not about better or worse. It's about we connect as human beings in
mm,
authenticity. That's the truth. The truth is who we are. And we're not our emotions and we're not our thoughts and we're not our circumstances. We're just you and me having a soul connection because you have a purpose and I have a purpose and we meet in that.
I love that. Okay, is your okay? Okay, I love what you just said. I got to highlight it. You said it's not power over; it's power with. That's so huge. So this weekend, true story, I was at church and I had an experience where, one of the things I like to do at my church is I always carry my journal with me, because I just feel like God talks to me, and or I get like amazing revelations I want to write down. And I was just moved by the service, and I actually kind of walked up towards the front of the church during like the worship time, because I just wanted to be closer. I didn't want to stay in my seat. I just wanted to be closer to the front. And so I walked up and I was holding my journal and I had this moment, because you're talking about authenticity. And so I just want to like be real and be vulnerable and be open. Like this happens for all of us, these authentic moments. And I was standing up there and I was like, no one else is standing up here with their journal. All right. I've never seen somebody stand near the altar or closer to the church, closer up front with a journal. Like I think I'm the only one that does that. And I had this really cool thought and I wrote it down because I thought it was really beautiful. It's very in tandem with what you just said. Just because I stand up front with the journal does not mean I'm extra special. It also doesn't mean I'm less special. It just means I'm me. And I'm the kind of person that would like to have their journal near the front of the church if that's where I choose to stand to encounter God. And that's okay. And it was this beautiful, not power over, not powerless, but power with experience in my own recent life, where I
Mm,
was like, yeah, I'm not more special than anybody. And no one's more special than me. And I'm not less special than anybody. I'm just me. Thank God. And that's okay. And it was like really liberating in that quick little moment to like not judge myself,
mm.
to not allow that to be a distraction of the moment. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. The judgments always come in and take over. You know, when we're in judgment and when we're in comparison and we're in critical, we're in blame, we're not living from our authentic self. That is our society's upbringing of you're supposed to be something, you're supposed to be do this, you're supposed to do, you ought to, you should, and we get so far away from our journey, like our unique blueprint. I did not know about this when I was growing up. I didn't know that I was special, just like everybody else was special, right? That I didn't have to
Yeah.
fit into something specific. Like I strive to be normal, and we're all far from normal. We are just who we are. And when we judge ourselves, we get on the complaint train. This is what leads us to blame. We blame ourselves and we blame others. You either have power over or you have almost have power under, right? We criticize ourselves, make ourselves small, or we puff ourselves up, become superior and dominant and power over. No, we want to be in the middle. We want to get off that complaint train so we can stop being a victim and have power over and power under, but really be on a love train. The love train where we flow, where you're talking about the conversations with God, when we're in a flow where creativity just gets downloaded. That's the time where we hear it so loudly, is when we're quiet and we're in alignment with ourselves. That
Yes.
authenticity comes out.
I love this because, I mean, even if I just go deeper into that moment, and it was like this last weekend for me. Like if I go deeper into that moment, I could have been like, well, there's nobody else up here. This is weird. I could have judged it as weird. I could have been like, no one's ever modeled this for me, but what if I'm a pioneer and that's okay? What if I'm giving other people permission to be themselves? Because I'm simply just being myself. I wanted to be up near the front and I wanted to have my journal. Is that okay? And somebody once said, A-okay yourself. Could you just A-okay yourself? Like, it's all right. You're on the adventure of knowing you and like you do you, boo. And there's so much beauty in that because it's not playing a victim and it's not looking around for external validation. It's like I can just A-okay myself. And also like I'm noticing in those moments just the variety of opportunity to check out of the moment, to judge it, to evaluate it, to distract. It's just a distraction versus like being present, like letting it be, not observing all how it is from the different angles and eyes in the room or the different voices of what is she doing? You know, why is she up there? Why does she have her journal? Who has their journal at the front of the church? All these weird, stinking thinking thoughts that could go through your head and being like, and this will be different for our listeners or our viewers. You know, go to that moment for you where you could have been judged or you judged yourself or you thought other people might be judging you. I've also noticed people don't really care as much as we think that they care. And so there's this perception of judgment, this perception of criticism that really, like, man, it pulls you right out of the here and now, the moment, and your connection with whomever, if it's the person in front of you or if it's God or if it's just yourself. It really pulls you out of connection.
Yeah. And I really want to reflect on that, Ruthie, because the judgment, and I have this conversation a lot in my time in Tuesday group and different workshops that I lead people through. We talk a lot about judgment. We talk a lot about comparison because we are just brought up in this society where this is just normal. This is what we think about all the time. The most powerful way of looking at judgment is we're so worried about other people judging us, right? We think about what other people think of us. But just a mere thought about thinking about other people judging us is a judgment.
It is. It's so true.
So we don't want other people to judge us,
Yeah.
but we judge them for perceiving them to judge us.
Yeah, and it perseverates the whole thing. It exacerbates all of it. It keeps it going. So, okay,
Just think about that.
Trina, Trina, give all of us some help here. Give us all a tip. What could be a shift, a phrase? What's one of your tactics or tools that you could equip us with so that we're not having that perseverated judgment and getting caught up in all that noise?
Mm. Well, first of all, every time that you feel like somebody's judging you, you're judging them. So if we want to be living in a judge-free environment,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, we can check ourselves that judging other people is judging ourselves, right? So catch yourself in that and accept other people for who they are. If we want to be accepted for who we are, we have to also meet other people in that, however bad behavior they might have. That doesn't mean that you accept it. It doesn't mean that you have to go with it or you have to give into it. You always have a choice with other people, whether you want to, how you want to respond, and if you want to flow with that energy, right? So accept people for who they are. That doesn't mean you have to accept their behavior. Two different things. I really want to separate who you are from your behaviors. So as soon as we can kind of dive under people's bad behavior, we can accept them for who they are, because everybody are just beautiful inside. It's not always portrayed in our action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a framework person.
Uh-huh.
My brain just thinks in systems and frameworks. And so I'm thinking of like a triple A here. Okay.
Okay.
We got build awareness, catch
Yes.
yourself, build awareness. Awareness
Yeah.
is always the first step, y'all. The name of the game is awareness. Awareness is the name of the game. Okay. Build awareness, number one. Number two, acceptance. Accept you for you and them for them. One of my favorite sayings is experience your experience. But like, don't let it rule you or reign you, but give permission to be like, okay, this is me. That's them. There's different lanes and lines here, and that's okay. Like, I don't got to control this. I don't got to get all up in their point of view. They don't have to get all up in my point of view, but like, just accept me for me, accept them for them. And like, accept that you can't change people. Now, you could influence them, but the worst type of influence is control and manipulation. That's like the worst. That is like icky. That's gross. Like we don't like to operate in that because it's not clean. It's super like yuck. And then the other A, I would say, is act in accordance with your authenticity. Act in accordance with your vision and your values. Like how would
Mm,
you want to be treated? You know, flipping it into some of the golden rule. How would I want other people to treat me? Or would I want them to judge me harshly for holding my journal at the front of the church, or what I want them to be like, oh, there's Ruthie being Ruthie,
mm. Yeah.
right? And so how can I just treat them like, if they want to sit back there, they can sit back there. If I want to go up front, I can go up front.
Yeah.
And that's just a really small recent example, but yeah, I think I'm like a triple A here. We got
I
the
love that. I love
awareness,
that. Yes.
acceptance, and authenticity. So let's dive into authenticity.
Mm,
I love the topic of authenticity. I
mm,
truly believe in being your authentic self. And
mhm.
something that I am really big on is defining everything. I've learned, maybe this is the teacher in me or the student in me, but something I've learned, Trina, is that we all have the same vocabulary, but we have different dictionaries in our heads because of our experiences and our exposure. So, what is authenticity to you?
Mm. Authenticity is showing up as who you are. What that means is speaking from your heart as much as you can, and have that align with your actions. We're not always able to do that if we're not as self-aware. As soon as we can start separating what is mine from what is yours, that means that what I feel and what I think is separate from what you think and what you feel, and you're
Mm.
responsible for yours and I'm responsible for mine,
Ooh,
right? So stick to your own lane rule really comes in here. So being your authentic self is just being responsible for who you are and showing up as who you are.
I love that. I've never heard the word responsible put in there. I love that. Can you say it again? Authenticity is being responsible for who you are.
Yeah, I'm like, Ruthie, what did I say?
That was good.
Yeah,
That was
someone in the
gold.
room. Yeah, being responsible for who you are.
I love that. That should be like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Authenticity is being responsible for who you are. I love that. I
Over
love
and over
that.
again, we tend to take responsibility for other people's problems, other people's emotions,
Mm,
other people's experiences. We
yeah.
apologize, we overdo, we overthink, we over-evaluate. That is not who we are.
No, it's not.
When we're pretending to be something that other people want us to be, that is not our authentic selves. Speaking our truth can only come from our experience. Everybody else have their own truth,
So good.
right? So when we speak our truth, it still has to come through compassion for how we experience a situation, because we can't just throw out an opinion that might hurt other people. It really has to be through that self-awareness that you're talking about. process it through, what is it that I really want? And what did I really think in this moment? Actually, I talk about emotions and needs. What am I feeling right now?
Mhm.
And what do I really need in this moment?
Ooh, that's good.
So I call that a time into yourself. So you guys all know about timeouts, right? Go in the corner, think about what you did, and come back and be all regulated again. Well,
Go away and then come back regulated. Could you?
yes,
Hey, could you just go away and come back all regulated?
yeah, right, right,
It does sound ridiculous.
right. And then deal with the rejection and the isolation and feeling humiliated while you're in the corner and don't bring it back into the group, right?
Mhm.
So what message are we sending to our kids? And I started using it as an adult timeout myself when I became a parent, realizing that helping my children adjust their behavior is not by telling them what to do. It's about meeting them in what they need. What do they need? What does their behavior tell me?
Yeah.
Instead of what's wrong with them and how can I
Mhm.
control the situation?
Oh my gosh, if I could oh, I just feel like you were like reading my mind. Like you're reading my mail. I feel like a big thing that a lot of us struggle with is what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I I personally believe that there is an enemy out there that would love for you to think the worst things about yourself, that there's an enemy out there there's an enemy that exists to steal, kill, and destroy your destiny, your worth, your value, anything he can do to take you out. And I think that's one of the biggest lies that can perseverate in your mind is what's wrong with me? Because somewhere along the way, somebody told us that we were wrong. We were wrong for us having those experiences. You're wrong for feeling that way. And actually, I mean, truly, like no joke, this morning I had this very conversation in one of my membership groups this morning. Like true, honest to God, had this story myself where I was looking at why do I always feel that I'm wrong? And it was such a like interesting conversation that we had. And we worked it out, we prayed it out. It was really powerful. And I love what you're saying. I think even like taking a time out to take a time in, like
Yes.
time out to tune in. What's happening? Because our emotions are just like indicators that something's going on. And it could be good, it could be bad. We're gonna make it
Yeah.
extreme either way. But I love what you're saying about like taking a time out to tune in, time in, like what are my needs? What are my emotions right now? And I do want to touch upon something that you said that was really good. You're talking about speaking with compassion and you're talking about how our words will land for somebody else. Something I have found, and I'm curious if you have found this, like your approach, and then because I think I think it's about your approach of how you say what it is that you want to say in a way that's well received. And I also think there's a disconnection where it's like, however you receive that is not my responsibility. I can give it and I can make the package as receptible as possible, if that's even a word, receptible, as easily received. Like it's going to be, but I'm also learning for me with absence of people pleasing and stepping into the fullness of authenticity and being responsible for my emotions and myself and my thoughts. I'm learning I want to say the truth, not to beat them up, not to hurt people, but just that the truth is known, which the truth can actually naturally be offensive all by itself. And I don't want to put pillows on my words. I don't want to manage other people's emotions. So, can you talk about that a little bit? Because there's a little bit of tension and duality there of
Mm,
saying what you mean, meaning what you say, but also not being mean or rude and not like letting it be okay however they receive it because it's not your responsibility to control other people's thoughts or feelings.
absolutely. Conscious communication, as I call it, it's really conscious. I mean that we're fully aware of what's happening in the moment. I'm fully aware of me and I'm fully aware of you. So when we speak consciously and we want to have this authentic communication, we certainly have to divorce ourselves from how other people receive
Yeah.
it.
That's so
Because we
true.
do have a tendency of not wanting to make people upset, or I wonder what they thought about it, and then
Mhm.
checking out with them. At the end of the day, that doesn't really matter because it is not our responsibility. That is when you stick in your own lane rule. It is
Yeah.
you're in charge of you. And if you can use as much compassion and stick to as many facts as possible. I think this is where people get it tricky about speaking the truth. A lot of times speaking the truth comes with a lot of judgments and a lot of opinions. And
Mm.
that's where we get ourselves in trouble. If we can stick to facts and observations, it's less threatening. People see it as um, less offensive. So we
Mhm.
want to avoid questions like why. Instead, we want to use what and how and where
Mhm.
and who to be more curious. We want to use curiosity. We want to have information, give info, or ask for information. So if we can focus on facts and we can focus on our own experience, I feel this, I believe this, I perceive this.
My experience was.
My experience
Yeah.
was.
In my opinion, and I love what you're saying. I recently had a conversation with somebody and I got to circle back around with them because I was like, that did not land. And everything that that person was saying, I was taking it totally wrong. And I realized like where was the breakdown in our communication? And the breakdown was they were sharing their observations as facts.
Mm,
Like
yeah,
like universal fact. Like
absolutely.
you have to do it this way, this way, this way. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, what you with love, what you should have said. And I'm not usually a should person, but a better approach would have been
Yeah.
in my experience, this is what works. In my experience, this is what works. Not you should do it this way, you got to do it this way. Because that was a person sharing their opinion as a universal fact, which I got to be honest, really ticked me off.
Of course it
And
does.
there was this feeling of should, Ruthie, you should know by now. You should know this. And I was like, how could I know something no one ever taught me?
Yeah, it starts a power struggle. It's scorekeeping. We get
Ugh,
into egos and fears
yeah.
combating each other, and we go away from our authentic selves. And
And
this
it's
is hard
critical.
to navigate.
Yeah, and it's super critical. And it's super, super critical. And I was feeling more of that shame and like I'm wrong. I'm wrong again. But I don't know how I'm wrong because
Yeah.
I don't know what I did that wasn't lining up. It was extremely confusing and critical. And I was like, yeah, I left that conversation. I had a really like it kind of weighed on me all night and into the next day. I woke up feeling kind of heavy. And I had to come to some awareness of like, man, get this off of me. Get
Yes.
this junk. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
That was like that person's side of the street. This is not a me problem. That maybe was a them problem. And they were trying to invite me into a problem. And I'm not gonna,
Mm.
I reject that invitation.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm not gonna, you might get some invitations to join pity parties, and I'm just gonna not go.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is where time ins are so helpful, Ruthie,
Yeah.
because in that moment, what I usually do is first of all, I ask my question, is this mine or is it yours or is it theirs?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times it's really both. Because when we take a time in and we're tuning in and we're recognizing, okay, wow, that really kind of hit a spot. Something got activated,
Hmm.
right? I'm feeling this. It's a reoccurring theme, having these thoughts about myself. This is my work, right? So if
Hmm.
something gets activated in us, that's my work. And I can respond to it with understanding and compassion. I can do everything to self soothe, which sounds like you did. The other part of it, what is theirs, I use Q tip. Quit taking it personally.
Ooh, Q-tip. I
It
love
is
me an
their
acronym. Quit
stuff.
taking it personally. Woo!
Use lots of Q tips. Okay, this is again where stay in your own lane rule works. You got to equip yourself with a lot of Q-tips. Anything that doesn't rub you the right way, you got to use your Q-tips.
Yeah, that's so
And
good.
then you self investigate afterwards and heal and soothe and integrate those parts of you that are kind of kicking and screaming a little bit because we get reactive, right? Because it hit a sore spot that we might still need a little attention to. We need to soothe that for a bit.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying because it's that attention and that awareness that actually brings way more revelation for yourself, and then for you to just connect the dots of life. Like,
Yes.
oh, there's something in me that got activated, or that got triggered, or that got touched upon, or that got brushed up against. I didn't like that. That's interesting. Okay, why don't I like that? What's there? Because one of my favorite prayers is, Jesus, kiss me where it hurts. Because
Mm.
sometimes I don't know, but I know that there's an ouchie, there's an ooh, an owie somewhere, and I need like love to cover that place that hurts. And love casts out fear. So I need that love to come in. And one of my other prayers is, I want to be so in love that I'm afraid of nothing. And
Mm.
so I invite love into that place where there's fear, or there's pain, or there's an ouchie. I mean, think about what do little kids do? What do moms and kids do when a kid scrapes their knee? You want me to kiss it? A
Absolutely.
kiss does nothing with love. A kiss does nothing to heal their wound. But what does it represent? And what it represents does everything. It's, I'm
Absolutely.
going to show love to your pain. I'm
Mm.
going to show love to your pain. And when you can have this self-awareness, when you can have these conversations with yourself or with others, I mean, if they're open, I truly believe conflict done well brings connection.
Mm.
When we can have a mature conversation where what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and we can come to the middle, that's beautiful. That's reconciliation, that's redemption, that's connection, and it's authenticity, intimacy. It's beautiful. But when we're critical and blaming, and we're bleeding on people who haven't cut us, that's a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where I help people get unstuck because I think it was Mel Robbins that said in a post today that um, pain is temporary, but suffering is optional.
Yes. I agree.
And a lot of us suffer because we keep regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. We keep the stories alive. We keep the emotions alive. Emotions are energy in motion. They don't last very long. There's a chemical burst in our brain that just gives us a sensation in the body. There's no negative or good or positive emotions. They just are.
Mhm.
But it's how we respond to them. And sometimes we get stuck in that for a long period of time. And that creates anxiety and confusion and feeling stuck and abandoning ourselves, getting further and further away from who we are. And that creates conflict. Instead of using relationships in front of us as a gift, right? As you're talking about the contrast and what people give us in the moment, so we can self reflect and we can improve and we give
So
more
good.
love to ourselves. Instead, we want to rid ourselves of that stuckness. We want to keep moving. We want to get back in the moment. And what I help people with is that three-pronged approach. It's very similar to your triple A's. I love how you brought that in because it really is know, speak, and connect. So know yourself. Take that time in. Understand where you end and where other people begin.
Mm.
That's where the boundaries start. The full self-respect creates natural boundaries. It's not something you have to like kung fu kind of, like stay away from me or here's my boundary. It really comes in very conscious communication and way of, you know, that doesn't really work for me, right? Or this is where I'm at and this is where you are at. So the deep self-awareness is that first step that gets us into communicating our truth, right? So a lot of us don't know what we want and we don't know how to get what we want. So we complain and we are passive aggressive and we hint and we allude to, and people should know what we need. But that's not true.
I, I I have had this conversation so many times with some other people. Um, Specifically, I'm just gonna be honest here. I've had this conversation before with my mom, And, I'm not sure if it's something that all children have with their parents, like, this feeling of, I feel like there's an expectation that's not being communicated, and I remember I told my mom once, and this is not to dishonor my mom, I love my mom. "Mom, I love you so much." Um, I just feel like there was a breakdown in our communication, and I said to her, "Hey, listen, I've never passed mind reading school. I still don't know what it is that you want unless you tell me." And there was a feeling that I was always failing her. And I had to tune in. What's this feeling? I feel like I'm failing, but I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like I can't change something I'm not aware of. And I would look for the awareness, but I couldn't find it. And so I'm like, can you just tell me what it is that you want? Like, I don't even care if it's blunt and direct and hurts
Yeah.
hearing it. I just want the clarity of knowing, what do you want? You know, because I can't give you what I'm not aware of. And I feel like there's an expectation here. You're wanting me to zig, but all I'm doing is zagging. And we're missing each other. Like, I'm trying and then you're trying, but like we're not connecting. And I love what you just said about, know what it is that you want and then speak it out so that there can be real connection. I start walking your way, you start walking mine.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you get an answer?
oh, did I get an answer? I don't recall if I got, like, a specific answer. The truth is, I don't know if she knows.
That was my follow-up question, because a lot
Yeah.
of times we just wish that people would be more clear with us,
Mhm.
and they would stop these passive aggressive attempts
Well,
to
these
point
games, it's like we're playing a
judgment.
game. I
Absolutely.
don't wanna play the
Yeah.
game anymore. Just tell
Here
me
are where
what
the
you want.
Q-tips come up. Here where the Q-tips come up.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as saying, as sometimes the theme actually has nothing to do about you, and
Yeah.
maybe her projection onto you. And you're catching these feelings of that you're failing in some way, or you're supposed to be feeling a certain way, and it's actually not yours at all.
Well, what I think, and just to go a step further, a little deeper, and we'll kind of, this will kind of bring us around full circle, is I'm not 100% sure she's aware of what she wants from me. And I realized I've been expecting that from her, but she may have never been taught how to articulate, how to know, how to speak, how to connect. And
Mhm.
I realized that's where I started to, instead of have compassion and empathy and curiosity for, like, hurt people,
Mm.
right? So I could be like, oh, you're a bad, I'm just using a general example now. Oh, you're a bad, mean person. You're not meeting my expectations. You're doing all these things to hurt me. Well, then I realized maybe they don't know. Maybe they never learned. Like, I can't expect my mom to give me something she doesn't have. That's so rude of me. That's me turning around and doing the same thing to her with a different lens. Right, and so that's something I learned is, and it opened up so much compassion for me. It opened up so much judgment I wasn't aware that I was operating in. I was expecting all these things from my mom that my mom couldn't give me because my mom didn't have it. And
Wow.
I choose to believe this. Everyone is doing the best they can with what they have.
Mm.
And they just might not have much, or
Mm.
they might not have what you think they should have.
Mm.
And is that okay? Because you're also doing the best you can with what you have.
Mm.
And it allowed me to let go of some conflict, judgment that I had with my own mom. And it's like our relationship now is so much better because I love her and I respect her and I honor her and I appreciate her. I turn my expectations into appreciations.
Oh, I love that.
Instead of looking at what she's doing wrong, I'm like, what's she doing right? You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
And then it invited me, it was an invitation for me. It's an invitation for me to be more clear in my communication and just say, Mom, what is it that you would like right now?
Mm.
And then just be quiet and listen and allow space for learning and discovery. Because oftentimes, I think you nailed it, Trina. I don't think it is. I just don't know if we're very clear what it is that we want. And it's a little confusing for anybody else to try and give it to us.
Absolutely. Conscious communication is all about awareness. It's awareness about what we want and what we feel, and for other people to do the same. And we can't expect them to know. So we can
We can't
we
accept.
can guess at times, we can ask, we can we don't want to guess and make assumptions. That's not what I meant about that. But we can use empathy to put ourselves in their shoes and use curiosity to ask questions. The best way of communicating is through listening. We really got to listen to what's happening for them. Even if we don't get clear answers, at least the time that we connect authentically with that other person is
Mm.
far beyond the words of communication that we get into.
Wow.
And then we can navigate relationships with compassion, because as soon as we're more clear about what we want and we kind of help people get clear on what they want without being defensive or without reacting back to them, we now have conscious relationships, and we have relationship freedom because we are now free from the expectations. We're free to be who we are. We're free from the responsibility of taking, responsibility for other people's emotions and
Mhm.
outcomes, because we're really just in charge of who we are and the responsibility to act with compassion with ourselves and other people.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Oh, there's so many other things I wanna share, but we'll kind of let's land the plane. Let's land the plane with, because I think the work that you're doing is so empowering and so powerful. It's the work that I also get to do with, my different programs, like, just facilitating connections and having more conversations so we can become more conscious, you know? It's not something that automatically happens even when you tune in. It's a muscle. You gotta awareness takes time to be developed because sometimes those things want to stay hidden. You know, things don't always, if it's painful, especially, doesn't want to come to the surface. And so, some of the work I get to do, which sounds very powerful, which sounds similar to some of the work that you're doing, which I think is really cool. I think as many of us that can be more aware and helping to liberate others is important. You know, it's really facilitating space for that connection, that consciousness, that awareness to show up, that authentic self to be accepted, like just practicing those skills. Like we didn't learn this in school. I didn't teach this when I was a school teacher, and so we got to get these skills and practice them often, frequently, much, you know, on daily opportunities. So I have a couple questions as we kind of wrap it up. So I'm all about success here on the Truth podcast. You know, we talk about all things success, and we're talking today about like emotional and like just emotional success. What's it look like to have healthy conversation and relationships? This is really powerful. Trina, how would you define success?
Well, I believe connecting to the authentic self, the you inside you, is the roadway to success.
Mm,
I think any kind of success springs out of us being aligned with who we are.
mm.
I believe that things flow and come to us as we step into our own power. We can't navigate anywhere in the world without having conscious relationships, or without having relationships with somebody as a leader or in the family. Success as a parent, or success as a leader, or success as a person. We have to come from a sense of confidence and believing in ourselves and believing in our skills, and all of that stem with that relationship of who we are.
The relationship you have with yourself.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
powerful.
So that authenticity, I
Yeah,
believe, leads to success in all areas.
I agree. I think that that's not something that we're taught or modeled very often. So it's really powerful work.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back, what's something that what you wish you would have learned as a kid, like along these lines?
Oh my goodness, Ruthie.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. So just if you can, like just one or two things, because we probably could
oh
talk
yeah,
about this
no,
all day.
I can talk about this all day, but the core is really, I wish that I had understood that there is a difference between who I am
Mhm.
and this chatter in my mind that tells me what I should be.
Mm.
I call it the ego. Um, we're we're fed with so much deception, I would say, from society that's not really who we are, and it's not about life and doesn't lead us to happiness. Money doesn't lead us to happiness. More doesn't lead us to happiness. The happiness comes from within. So I wish that I understood what that relationship was like and how much power I had as a child by just sticking to what felt right to me instead of wanting to prove everybody that I was good enough, or hop and dance in a certain way that I thought other people would like me and love me for.
Mm.
But just knowing really more about who I was is separate from other people. I wish that I had known that. Yeah.
That's so good. I was um I was once in a like a circle of friends, and we were doing this fun thing where we were trying to write spontaneous songs together. And not that I'm much of a songwriter or a musician or like a vocalist at all, but I'm pretty creative with words, and I do enjoy like singing, even if I'm not very good at it. So we were just sitting there and we were singing in a circle, and when somebody picked up a good line, the whole room would pick it up, and it'd be like we'd all sing it out together. And this was a bunch of group of believers, so we all have the same faith. And I remember I was trying really hard. I was trying really hard to get a line to get picked up, and my lines weren't getting picked up, and I was feeling all types of ways about it. And I sat down. I I paused to tune in, and I was like, "What is it that I really want to say? Because I'm trying really hard and it's not working." And it was that moment of just like pause and like lean in and tune in and flow that I was like, I actually started singing out, "I have nothing to prove.
Wow.
I have nothing to prove. God, you really love me, and it's really that simple. And I have nothing to prove. You love me, it's really that simple, and I love you, it's really that simple." And
Mm.
I actually that's what I define as success, is I'm loved by God and I love God, therefore I am successful. Period.
Oh,
That's my full stop. That's my definition of success.
yeah.
I love God and God loves me,
Mm.
therefore I am successful.
Mm.
Period.
Yeah,
Even
there's
if I
nothing else to it.
never do anything else,
Yeah.
my success is in being loved by God and loving him well, right? And then there's a few other things that might be great, but that's it. From that though, and I'll post it in the show notes of this episode. From that, my friend Greg, the whole room picked it up. It was so cool. They picked up that
Of
line. We're all
course.
singing. It's really that simple. I have nothing to prove. It's really that simple. My friend Greg wrote a whole song out of it. I'll post it. It's called "It's Really That Simple." I mean, and I go back and I listen to that song over and over again, and I learned I have nothing to prove, and I wish I would have learned that when I was younger too.
Yeah.
And for those listening, whether you're older or younger, or maybe you're the same age as we are, I just want to say to you that you have nothing to prove, you know? And when we find ourselves trying to prove something, we're already playing a game we can't win. It's one of the things I wish I would have known, I think, as well. Like, just, I love how you shared that.
Mm.
I wish I would have learned that when I was a little girl.
Mm.
Like, just looking back at little Ruthie, putting my hands on her shoulders and saying, "Babe,
Yeah.
listen, there's a phrase. It's called 'you do you, boo.' Okay?" And I want you to live by that you have nothing to prove to anybody. You've gotta be good enough in
Yeah.
somebody else's eyes, and if you are playing that game, you'll never win.
That's it. That's all life is about.
Never win.
Just be
Yeah.
you.
Just be you. Be
Yeah.
you. Have your own experience. So, a couple more questions here. I run a program called Success Club where I educate, equip, and empower kids to think, speak, and act like champions.
Mm.
And then I also support their parents to raise them up to be world changers.
Mm.
Why do you think that the world needs something like Success Club right now?
I love it. I love everything that stands for. It's so needed out there. To be a conscious parent and be a child navigating in this world of craziness right now, it is just more important to be aware,
Mhm.
emotionally aware of the power that we have within. One of the things that I teach my girls, I have 3 girls, a lot, is that emotional intelligence of understanding that you don't have to do that for others. We have to be kind to one another, but you don't have to make them feel a certain way. Like you got to be in charge of you. You got to be in charge of your emotions, and you can choose how you respond to any situation. You can sit down and cry about it in a corner,
Yeah.
or you can take your fear under the arm and with compassion and just do the thing anyway. And they come out on the other side and they're like, Mom, I did it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, you did. How did that feel? Nobody else did it. You're not doing it for me. You're doing it to gain confidence. You're doing it to know how to navigate those emotions that when they trip you up, that you can alter your thoughts and your response to it. And with time and with practice, be successful in that,
Yeah.
which leads to more confidence. And I just think that that's what that success and the gift that we can give our kids is that emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
understanding how powerful they are with just the way they think and how they project and how they can manifest their own success and how we can help them step outside of their comfort zone, not pushing them, not forcing them, encourage them and on the sideline, in your own lane, running, giving them water if they want to. If they don't want to, don't throw it over there. Like don't run their race. Like, just support them in that. Allow them to be who they are, and they'll shine and they will recognize their own light within,
Mhm.
and they will shine, and you will shine as a parent because they're teaching you to be whole too.
Oh, I
Oh,
love that. You shared even before we went live for the podcast, you shared that, it looks like staying in your lane and running your race and letting other people stay in their lane and run their race.
yes.
And man, that's when we have so much conflict and collisions when we try and get in somebody else's lane
Yeah.
and stay in your lane. Sometimes I've heard that before from the lens of criticism and control and mean, but I'm like, no, like it's one of the most compassionate things you could possibly hear or do is like just do your part. Run
Yeah.
your race. Like be you. Stay in your lane. And I think authenticity is so powerful and awareness of who you really are, your identity is so powerful because when you can just have acceptance of that,
Mm,
everything else just flows freely. Like there's different frequencies,
mm,
not to get weird or woo woo, but like there's different frequencies and they either work or don't work. They turn people on or they turn people off. And one of the highest frequencies, the highest frequency is authenticity.
mm,
It's also called enlightenment or it's called something else, but like the highest frequency is authenticity, which is you being you.
yeah.
And one of the words I like to pair with authenticity is humility.
Mm,
And my favorite definition of humility is willingness to be seen for who you really
mm.
are,
Oh, that's so
which is vulnerable, which is weak, which is strong, which is special in your own way, not more or less than others, just you're special.
mm,
That's it, period. Like
absolutely.
you're just being you and it works. Like
Yeah.
it's the highest frequency
Yeah.
because it is the best way. It
Yeah.
works. It works every time.
And
It's
Ruthie,
truth.
what children really need from us parents, what
Mhm.
they really, really need is for us to show up as who we are with all of it.
Yes.
We need to model that it's okay to
Yes.
feel, it's okay to mess up, it's okay to fail. But what they really, really need to hear is our taking accountability and responsibility for our mistakes in it. They
Yes.
need to be looked in their eyes as respectful as we would do with any other adult,
Yeah.
because they're a full, complete, whole human being as well. And they deserve just as much respect as we deserve back. And we need to tell them, I'm sorry. I could have done this differently.
Mhm.
You know, had I to do this over again, I would do this instead. Let me tell you now, that
Yeah,
was
it's
not about you.
modeling. It's accountability, responsibility, and modeling. This is everything I share in Success Club
Of
because
course you do.
it's so powerful. I always say whatever you model, you make normal.
Yes,
So so
absolutely.
if you model just yelling and criticizing, you make that normal. That's what they will do. They will repeat the sin, so to speak. They will keep that generational ish going
Yes.
versus responsibility, like apologizing. I could have done that better, or even just coaching versus telling. Like, hey, I saw that you got a C on that test, or I saw, hey, you kind of blew it. What happened?
Now what happened?
Asking, curiosity, just opening up. So oh my gosh, I could talk to you for hours on
Yes.
this. Um, well, as we kind of wrap it up, what would be one piece of advice? Like if you could leave our listeners with a piece of advice or a challenge, an action step, maybe a word of encouragement today,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Well, outside of Q-tip, try it out. Quit taking personally when you are in conflict with other people. I think one of the biggest hiccups as we do in relationships, but mostly as a parent, this will show up in parenthood a lot,
Mhm.
is that we often communicate what we don't want.
Ooh.
Don't slam the door. Don't put your feet here. Don't do this. And I'm going to give that one for you as well. We are raised to look for problems. This is actually our the evolution of our primary primitive brain that it looks for threats and looks for problems over really everything is just fine. So when we
Mm,
start catching ourselves in don't do something, instead use something with do. My daughter goes to a very emotional intelligent school, and
mhm.
there they reframe everything in kind of a do framework, which was mind blowing to me. So one example would be they would pick leaves up or something like that from the ground. You know what they tell them? Leave the nature on the ground. I would never thought about that. I'll be like, don't pick it up. Like you get dirty, or you would, I don't know. But at the end of the day, especially children, they don't have a concept of opposite. Sometimes us adults can't imagine it either because we don't know what we want. We're very good at knowing what we don't want. We're not always good at identifying what we want. So this can help in all relationships. So instead of saying don't slam the door, ask, please close the door gently. Speak to me in a softer voice. I can't hear you. My ears hurt when you speak that loudly. Ask people what you want from them because they may not know the vocabulary specifically
Mhm.
in your dictionary on what it sounds like. They're not a mind reader. So we got to be very specific in our communication and focusing on what we want instead of what we don't want.
Oh, that's so powerful. Well, folks, what an amazing conversation we had today. We talked about Q-tips, quit taking it personal, AAA. We got the awareness, the acceptance, and the authenticity. And then don't speak what you don't want. Speak what you want. Speak what you want. Well, this conversation truly, Trina, it was amazing. And
Yeah.
I know somebody listening, they're walking away with some gold. And I would love to know what was the exact moment, the truth, the nugget that you're taking away today. Please share it with us in the comments. I love to read what was a powerful takeaway or an aha for people. So please make sure that you leave that for us to read, to follow up with you, and just to connect from here going forward. Thank you, Trina, so much for sharing your wisdom and your insight. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me. I have a Facebook group called Conscious Relationships on my website, youinsideyou.com.
Mm,
And also have an upcoming program calling the Inner Shift. This is really to delve deeper into those parts of ourselves and becoming a better parent, a better version of ourselves that really requires these skill building and education to help us become free of our own judgment, our own inner mind. So you'll find that too in my Facebook, on my page, and on my website.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'll put all the information in the show notes. For those of you listening, remember success is not just about what you achieve, but it's who you become in the process. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and as always, seek out the truth that will set you free. Have a great day, everybody.